So good morning, everyone. Uh, Great to see a full house over here on a Sunday morning. I hope I'll be able to share my views and add some value to your understanding by the end of this session. I hope you have a enjoyable session on ESG and the opportunities that lie for chartered accountants. Yeah, so just a brief outlook of what we have in store for the session. We'll be looking at what is ESG, the reporting standards that we have at the moment, the assurance frameworks that we as chartered accountants or the assurance providers are required to follow, and the opportunities for CA, considering our skill sets and the understanding that we bring in. So we'll have a look at it. Yeah. So you must be aware, or you must be hearing, there's a lot of buzz around ESG at the moment. Everywhere you see, and in almost all newspapers, you must be looking at, there have been a lot of commitments made by organizations all around the world, not only in India. So what is ESG basically? So as you must be looking at the slide, ESG are the three factors of environmental, social, and governance, and how the companies or the corporates align these factors to understand what is their environmental impact, what is the social impact, and how well or how robust the governance framework is to understand these aspects and bring it into the business. So I'll quickly move on to the environmental aspect of it and give you a brief of what that unfolds. Environment, basically, as you must be aware, there is a lot of risk that is going on with respect to the climate change. Every now and then we see a lot of catastrophes going around, and how that impacts the organization in a way that needs to be understood by the companies, bring out the risks in their risk management processes, and have some form of the other controls in place to ensure that the damage that can be made by environmental impacts can be minimized. Emissions, yes, a lot of operations that the companies do result into a lot of emissions. So these emissions, or you can say the pollution part of it, leads to a lot of greenhouse gas emissions, like methane, sulfur oxide, nitrous oxide, which are emanated into the atmosphere, and how that actually results into impacts to the biodiversity, or to the people in general, and how that can be reduced. We are all aware that as per the Paris Agreement, there is a target taken by all countries to reduce the emissions. Some have taken 2030, some have taken 2050 to be net zero or carbon neutral. So how this actually culminates, and how the organizations need to look at this objective. We'll come to that in the subsequent slides. Other aspects like water, we are all aware that water is a scarce resource, and how there should be optimum utilization of water usage all across. Not only in the individual usage, but also the corporates that use water. Waste. Similarly, a lot of emissions are caused due to the waste and the way they are disposed of. It could be like reducing, recycling, or the waste, and how effectively they are doing. And conservation is one aspect. A lot of industries emit a lot of GHG, that is the greenhouse gas emissions, and they affect the biodiversity in some way or the other. So understanding that effect, bringing that to the boardroom, having good governance on these aspects, having practices aligned to these aspects, to reduce the impact in a certain way. Energy, a very important aspect of environment that we see. A lot of companies out there are moving on to green energy, or to renewable sources of energy like solar, wind, hydel power that is being taken care of. So people or organizations have started to look into it. We have a lot of capacity that has been built around the energy part. And in the coming years, we'll see a lot of companies moving on to the renewable sources from the non-renewable sources that the companies are currently utilizing. Yeah, the social aspects, somewhat very new, and a lot of prominence is gaining around the social aspects to make the business, the business landscape more socially driven, and to understand the aspects of how social aspects can be taken into consideration when we are doing business as a whole. So for this social aspect, a lot of stakeholder engagement is required, and for all the frameworks that we have, GRI or even the BRSR for that framework, it strives to understand what kind of stakeholder engagement is done, and it's not only the internal stakeholders that we have, like the employees or the board or the on all that stuff, but also how you touch upon the stakeholder interests of your suppliers, your distributors, to mean all that taking into consideration. Health and safety, again, a major important thing out there. How do people or how do organizations ensure that the employees or the workers are seen? Safety is of paramount importance over there. And we could see that a lot of manufacturing organizations are doing quite well when it comes to health and security of the people. Human rights, somewhat neglected issue or neglected factor traditionally, but now with these frameworks coming into place, how well are these human rights respected by organizations? What kind of policies that the companies have? What are the benefits provided to companies to respect these human rights? Diversity and inclusion, again, a lot of concern around this aspect, and how all the facets of all these groups of the society are given encouragement to work for the company, and how that is done, to understand that. Customer satisfaction, product safety, again, from a social perspective, is very much essential. As I said, supply chain. Supply chain could be your upstream and downstream partners for your organization, and how do you gel with them, or how do you understand their aspects? What are they doing from the perspective of these three ESG factors, and how they align with the strategy of your company? That needs to be brought out from these frameworks. Again, community engagement. There could be a lot of operations of the company which might be affecting the community in the locality or in the vicinity that the operations of the company might be having, and how that is affecting them. What are the impacts? How those impacts can be reduced or eliminated in a way that needs to be seen now. Governance. Yes, all this cannot be done if there is no good governance. What's the tone at the top? That usually matters. For this, there should be a board independence, and composition of the board should be at least an ESG committee that is being seen, or at least a sustainability department, which is looking into all these aspects of ESG, and how well they align to the vision or the strategy that the company is taking from a sustainability point of view. Executive compensation, again, how are the pay structures of these executives aligned to the sustainability initiatives of the company? That usually brings in that vision. Then we have all the policies and procedures in place, like anti-corruption, bribery, code of conduct, which mentions what is the acceptable and non-acceptable behavior of not only the board, but also of the employees out there. Risk management, as I said, how do you perceive, take those risks, identify those risks, and what mitigation measures you are taking from an ESG perspective. All that needs to come into the risk management framework that the company is following. Cyber security and data protection, again, is something it's of recent introduction, and you might be aware that a lot of information around individuals and is being used by the organizations, and how well do they ensure that there's enough cyber security and data protection measures out there. Auditing and internal controls. Yes, a theme or a factor that we have, and we are actually the experts in this field. Ethics and code of conduct. Yes, as I said, a lot of these things need to come from the top, and how well the company makes the people aware of these ethics and code of conduct, around all this ESG and other aspects of the business that needs to be seen. Sustainability as a definition, it involves meeting current needs without compromising future generations, as we all know. And it tries to align the planet, the economic aspect of it, and the people aspect of it. As we said, all this culminates into the ESG and how well the company does it from a sustainability point of view. That needs to be brought up or demonstrated by the companies through their operations or through their activities that the company does. So why should a company disclose ESG information? So all these frameworks that we have, the BRSR, the GRI framework, or the IASB, all these frameworks are looking at disclosures, and these disclosures try to demonstrate what the company is doing from an ESG perspective and how well their activities are aligned. Broadly, there are 3 to 4 aspects of it. One could be the compliance aspect. As we all know, the BRSR, which is the Indian framework for ESG and disclosures. Earlier, there would not be any company which would be thinking on these lines, and when the BRSR has come in, at least the 1,000 top listed companies have started thinking on it. They are revisiting their processes, the kind of stuff they are doing, and at least trying to bring it to the report, which is privy to all the stakeholders, and bring in a good view or outlook of what they are doing. Investors, a lot of investors have started looking at the ESG information of the company to understand what are they doing from the sustainability point of view, and have actually started investing in companies which are ESG driven. There are mutual fund schemes which have also come up, so there's a lot of prominence or importance being gained by the ESG framework. ESG rating analysts, very important. There are a lot of agencies that are tracking the companies, how well they are doing from an ESG perspective, and bringing in the kind of ratings that these companies have. So these ratings are generally looked at by not only the Indian businesses, but also by the overseas organizations when they want to deal with your company. Competitive edge amongst peers, absolutely. Whenever the company is coming up with a BRSR, for that matter, when we look at the Indian perspective, it is not only the annual report which the companies or the shareholders are looking at, but also the competitors. So the competitors are actually looking at what my competitor or my peer is disclosing in his BRSR. Trying to match up with them, or what new can be done. That is what we see. So whenever we are now working on a BRSR, it is usually the client's question: what is the competitor doing? Looking at what they are doing, trying to see how those processes can be aligned, can be brought into in their current organization. So a lot of importance, a lot of prominence we see from ESG and the disclosure aspect of it. Global expectations, yes, almost all the stakeholder groups that we have are looking at the disclosures and how meaningful these disclosures are, not only from the climate change perspective, but also from the social aspect and the governance aspect of it. What kind of risks and opportunities that these aspects unfold, and how are these risks and opportunities taken into consideration, and they are aligned with the activities of the company. As I said, a new focus on S, that is a service, that is the social and the governance aspect of it. An emphasis on materiality. And so what materiality generally means is that we generally reach out to the stakeholders. We provide them with a good set of 30 to 40 questions on ESG. How well the company, trying to understand what the company is doing and what they feel should be done on a scale of some 2 to 3 parameters. And that is how the company tries to understand what else or what material topics that the company is having, and what are the focus areas that the company could have from a sustainability standpoint. Management fluency in ESG matters. Yes, a lot of awareness is being created or needs to be created in the boardroom across sustainability, and how well they could align to the sustainability aspect of the business. Transparency, consistency, and assurance, a very important and very apt expectation out there. Greenwashing, so greenwashing is a term that is used when we try to report something which the company is not doing, and trying to gain some goodie points over there. So greenwashing to a certain extent is prevalent across industries, and it is up to the board to understand this and bring out transparent and consistent disclosures. Again, assurance is something which has gained momentum in the last 1 year or so, with the BRSR also mandating that the top 150 listed companies start with assurance of their BRSR disclosures. And that is where our fraternity comes in. So we being, our skill sets being very aligned with the assurance objective. I think we should take this opportunity to dive into this sphere and bring in value to the organizations. I'll give you a brief on the social audit aspect. Apart from the ESG audits that we have, social audit is basically an objective evaluation of what social impacts the company has through its operations, assuring that the intended objective of the social practice has been achieved, or if not achieved, reporting on that aspect. So social auditor is something which is being encouraged by the ICAI for us to take up the assignments on. And for this, you need to be a qualified certificate holder from the National Institute of Securities Management. Responsible parties, a social enterprise, obviously, who will be disclosing the social activity that has been taken and what impacts it has made. Intended users could be the responsible party itself, who wants to demonstrate that they are doing quite a bit on the social aspect. And from the social audit report, any person or persons who might be interested in it, or maybe the investors or maybe the communities for that matter. I'll quickly run you through the standards or the frameworks that we have, the disclosure standards. This all began with the Sustainability Development Goals coming into picture by the UN, and at present we have around 17 sustainability goals that we have, and all these frameworks, maybe be it the GRI or the BRSR framework for that matter, and the 9 principles that GRI framework, the BRSR framework is based on. They are all aligned to these 17 sustainability goals that are there on the screen. So it is a very well articulated framework that India has taken. And if you see the BRSR format, you will see that these sustainability goals, development goals, are actually aligned, are actually articulated very well into the BRSR. Some international standards and framework, and some national standards as well, like the BRSR, as I said, it is currently mandated to the top 1,000 listed companies by market capitalization to report on. And as I said, a lot of movement is we can see from these, at least from these companies. We see that there is a lot of opportunities for us to actually handhold these companies. Even though this has been something which has been forced upon them, I can say a top 200 companies might be in a position to bring in the kind of information or generate the kind of information that BRSR demands. But the next 800 companies are still not in a position to articulate very well what this all relates to, what kind of processes that the company has, and what apt information can be brought and disclosed into the BRSR. So a lot of opportunities out there. There are other international standards as well, a lot of standards from the European Union, the United Nations Forum on National Standards, IIRC, the International Integrated Reporting Council. So a lot of these top 200 companies have actually started reporting from say last decade or so. They have started with the integrated reporting, that is bringing in your financial aspects with the sustainability aspect of the business and integrating it into a annual report. So when you just go through the annual reports of say Reliance Industries or say L&T for that matter, you will see an integrated report as part of the annual report. TCFD again, one aspect or a standard or framework that where we can actually cash in on, that is, it tries to understand the climate related financial impacts and bringing about an alignment of what related risks can actually have your have an effect on your turnover or the financial aspect of the business. There are others like ISSB's International Sustainability Standard Board, Carbon Disclosure Project. I will not go deep into this, but just to give a flavor of like the disclosure requirements or the frameworks that are there out there in the global scenario. And everyone is trying to understand or demonstrate the kind of stuff that the companies are doing. GRI, as I said, is the most common framework that the business fraternity is using worldwide. And as you say, the number of participants is almost around 10,000. So a lot of Indian companies have also started coming up with the GRI standards, and the disclosures are very much aligned to GRI standards. We as practitioners can actually see to it whether the company has aligned their disclosures to GRI frameworks and give our assurance on those aspects as well. ISO 14001, ISO guidance on social responsibility. So there are these ISO guidances as well, wherein we can actually be a partner in these ISO the validations that can be done and provide our assurance on those aspects as well. ESG ratings, as I said, a lot of agencies are out there who will actually look at the organizations and how well they are doing on the ESG front and provide their ratings basis the framework that they have and disclose these information. Like these MSCI, S&P Global, EcoVadis, and DJSI, Sustainalytics and CSR Hub. If you go to these, some are paid for that matter, but there is some like Sustainalytics and CSR Hub. If you go to these websites, you will obviously can have a look at how organizations are doing from an ESG perspective and what ratings that they have. Just for an example, EcoVadis, EcoVadis is something which is being mandated by the European Union. So if a company in India tries to export some material to the European Union, the European Union has mandated the Indian company to actually come up with disclosures on how they are doing on the supply chain aspect of it. So how well they are doing from a sustainability point of view, what are their emissions, Again, we can step into this and provide assurance to an Indian company with respect to the disclosures that they have done, and ensuring that they are aligned or they have adequate internal controls in place, and whatever they are disclosing is free of material misstatement. So coming into the audit perspective or the assurance standards that are generally followed, we have some international or global standards out there. That is ISA 3000, which is the most common assurance framework that assurers across the globe are using. It's not only the chartered accountants from an Indian perspective, but all other assurers have been using ISA 3000. ISA 3410 is an assurance engagement or is an assurance standard specifically for greenhouse gas statements. And also every company which tries to demonstrate what kind of greenhouse gas emissions that they are doing and which are part of the annual report, they can actually go to an assurer and get it verified by him, and make it a statement in the assurance statement to bring in that in the annual report for that matter, and bring in that kind of credibility or the trustworthiness that is needed around greenhouse gas emissions. A recent entry to this is the International Standard on Sustainability Assurance 5000, which is again an assurance framework that can be used by assurers all across the globe. A1000 assurance standard is something that we also use, and it is a combination of 5 principles that it gives, and how the company is aligned to these 5 principles that needs to be reported on. ISO standards 14000 series are again some specific series which talks about the social aspect of it, or it also talks about the environmental management system that the company has, and we can bring in our skill sets into picture and bring in the assurance aspect of it and report on whether it is adequately reported or not. Coming on to the Indian standards, ICAI for that matter has also come up with SSAE 3000 and Standard and Assurance Engagement 3410, which are very much similar on the lines of the international standards that we saw. And it very beautifully mentions like what kind of mindset that the assurance provider needs to have, or what kind of processes that the company, that the assurer needs to follow. It also brings about the aspect of quality checks that the assurer should have. And sustainability reporting maturity model, it also gives a very good rating mechanism that organizations can have to see how ready they are from a sustainability point of view, what disclosures they have. A very good mechanism to understand where the company is from the sustainability point of view. Sustainability reporting standards boards, again, of ICA has also come up with the social audit standards. So a lot of information or a lot of understanding is provided on social audits and how they are need to be taken care of. Typically, the types of assurance that we see and are part of the assurance standards are like the reasonable and limited assurance. So if you go to any assurance, if you go to any annual report of these top companies, if you see, you can always at the bottom of the report, you will see these assurance reports, and typically you will see a reasonable assurance engagement or a limited assurance engagement. Limited assurance engagement is when you reduce the risk of a material misstatement to a level that would not be to a level that is in the reasonable assurance. Basically, because it entails fewer tests than the reasonable assurance. It is typically, you are doing its inspections, recalculations, establishing audit trail on sample basis and providing a trend analysis. You're not going deeper into the controls perspective or the that the company has. Not extending your the operations or the procedures that you will be doing. Again, reasonable assurance is, as I said, it will go deeper into the internal controls for preparation of the subject matter, and it will see what kind of internal controls it has, whether they are enough for the kind of information that has been disclosed. A lot of analysis, a lot of site visits will be there, trying to understand the operations out there, and how well this can be articulated in your opinion. And also these two are some aspects. Reasonable assurance, as I said, BRSR has also started mandating this with the top 150 listed companies. So a lot of companies, like these companies for that matter, in this current year have started looking at the assurance aspect of it. And as I said, a lot of movement or a lot of seriousness has come to the information that goes or will be going on into this BRSR. Some assurance areas, as you can see, the typical areas that an BRSR or any sustainability report for that matter not touches upon. It could be the water consumption, energy consumption, GHG emissions, a very important part, waste generation and disposal, new employees, OHS, that is organizational health and safety, trainings, CSR impact, and the materials per se. So these are some assurance areas that an assurer typically touches upon when he is providing the opinion on the statements. Activities of the assurance process is mainly in line with what we have for the with the financial aspect of the business as well. Typically, when we start, we do an initial data walkthrough, sample of some sites for review of stakeholder engagement and maternity. A very important part to understand how well the company has aligned with the stakeholders and how their interests or concerns have been taken into consideration when arriving at the material topics that the company has chosen. Review of data and related processes, again, something that we usually do in the financial audits as well. Interviews at sites and evidence collection. Review of selected statements, claims, data walkthrough for consistency check, interviews, maybe through the various levels of people that we have. And the outcome is generally a management letter, which we generally provide a view of what non-conformities have we seen and give a chance to the company to work on these. And an assurance statement, basically a statement saying that whether, as we have in a financial audit, also whether there has been any instance of material misstatements that we see or we qualify the report in any matter. So I'll come to the roles of CA, roles the CA can play in this sustainability sphere out here. One aspect is the advisory role, and the second is the assurance provider role, wherein audits come into picture. So basically a CA with all the skill sets that we have or the rigor that we have in the CA syllabus or the CA study that we do, can actually bring in a lot of value addition to what the company is doing from an ESG perspective. And initially, I also thought that what could I do? What could I bring in to the company? But if you understand the kind of framework or the kind of reporting mechanisms that we have, or what is the BRSR coming up with, you will see that a lot of stuff we as a CA can add value to. and actually steer this sustainability agenda across the organization. So while we are working with a lot of listed companies out there, we see a lot of internal audit department of the company playing a lot of active role when it comes to the kind of reporting that we have. Trying to reach out to departments all across the organization, because a lot of information is needed from across the organization. Maybe it could be the marketing, maybe it could be the HR that is there, or you can say the company secretarial team. Getting to these teams, trying to make them aware of what this all entails now from a reporting perspective, and getting that apt information in place. That is very much needed, and that is where we can actually dive into and bring in that advisory role in the right perspective. So from a corporate perspective, yes, a CA can bring in a lot of value. From an assurance perspective, we have already seen that a lot of frameworks are out there which we can grab in. We can actually enter into this sphere and actually cash in from that perspective. So just to give a brief on the disclosures and reports, as I said, BRSR is the most active framework out there, wherein at least the top 1,000 listed companies are required to report on the 9 principles of BRSR. And as I said, from an advisory role, you can obviously bring in that role, as I mentioned in the last slide. And assurance role, as I said, top 150 listed companies are now required to have their the BRSR core. That is a combination of 9 attributes that the BRSR has, and how from an assurance have a reasonable assurance of those 9 attributes. Sustainability report and integrated report. Again, companies also voluntarily bring out the things that the company is doing from a sustainability point of view. Again, if we see one aspect of it is that their alignment with the GRI or any alignment with the disclosure framework that we can obviously bring in that value by bringing an opinion on that part. TCFD disclosures, again, what impacts the climate change can have on the profit and loss, or the cost, or the assets of the company. From an advisory role, you can have. Assurance is not mandatory at the moment, but companies can go voluntary and have these assured to bring in that kind of creditworthiness to the information. Again, green bonds and green debt securities, as I said, a lot of movement is happening on this, and investment opportunities are being provided to invest in companies which are more active from the sustainability point of view. Both from an assurance and advisory role can be brought in with respect to the pre-issue support or the post-issue support of these bonds or the investment avenues that we have. Again, social audits, trying to understand the impacts that the social activities or the vision that the company has taken from a social perspective, and whether they have achieved those objectives is required. GHG certifications and assurance, as I said, other than the GHG reports or other than the sustainability reports, a company can actually go in for GHG certification in a limited way and try to bring in that creditworthiness to the GHG emissions that the company has emitted, and whether they have been audited by a third-party assurer like us. A very important aspect of it is the internal audit function within the organization. As I said, a lot of companies have been delegating this disclosure requirements to the internal audit function. And rightly so, because internal audit function brings in that kind of robustness, or brings in that kind of an eye for detail in whatever they do. And not only because they will not only take the information as provided, but they will also see to it that they have enough backups or enough supporting documentation or enough controls in place when any information has come up for disclosures. So the core internal audit roles, if you see in the green sphere, is something that we can we can actually take a lead in or actually go in. And I, coming from an internal audit background, I would typically would like every one of you to actually take this route, at least to team up with the sustainability department or any corporate secretary department for that matter, who is driving this sustainability reporting initiative in the company, and team up with them, basically start collating information with the right kind of internal controls in place, and bring in the right or demonstrate the right kind of sustainability initiatives that the company has taken. Yeah, to conclude, I would say, and I've already addressed it, that a CA can be a substantial contributor in steering the ESG process or the ESG agenda that the company has taken. Because a lot of financial acumen and ESG integration we can see, and we can bring in that acumen when we are trying to focus on the ESG aspects of it, how that is aligned or how it impacts the financial aspects of the business as well. Risk management, yes, a lot of companies are coming up with risks that are aligned to the ESG perspective. And we as chartered accountants and are also a part of the risk management sphere. And how well can we articulate these risks, how well we can identify these risks. We as chartered accountants do a good amount of risk assessments, how those risks are mitigated, all that stuff. We can bring in a lot of value out there. Regulatory compliance and ESG reporting, with the BRSR coming up, there is a lot of movement on the compliance aspect. We have seen that at least companies might not be that much ready at this point of time, but when it comes as a compliance item, that brings in that kind of seriousness. So we being more aligned to the compliance thing, and SEBI coming up with a lot of regulations, and we expect that a lot of regulations will be there with respect to BRSR at least, which is currently sector agnostic. But we will see that a lot of sector specific disclosures will also come in the coming years, and we can play a very big role in these compliances. Data analysis and ESG performance measurement. Again, we being very much true to the fact that we go into the details of the data and provide an analysis. We can actually play a very good role when it comes to ESG performance, or for that matter, coming up with ESG goals or commitments that the company can take, whether they have been aligned to what the initiative is or what the visions and strategies that the company has taken. See to it that through our rigor, or through our processes that we generally take as maybe as a part of the risk management thing or any other aspect of the business, we can see whether this performance measurement, and see to it that we are aligned or in line with what objectives or what goals we have taken, and whether they are in line or we are in the right direction or not. Stakeholder engagement and ESG communication, as I said, we can drive that dialogue with the stakeholders that we have, maybe, as I said, both internal and external stakeholders, trying to understand what their concerns are or what their interests are, basically from the sustainability point of view, bring in that transparency and credibility to the information that is generated, and be truly trusted advisors to the companies with respect to the ESG framework that the company has taken and the initiatives that the company takes. Having said that, it's as I said, it's just the starting point of the ESG strata out there, and a lot of companies are still trying to understand what all this is and how we can align, or what processes we can have to at least bring that kind of information that is needed across the disclosures. So as a concluding remark, I can say that this is a very good time for us to actually delve into this field. Bringing in with limited dependency on experts. As I said, GHG is something that we might not be in a position to dive into, but with the kind of support from these ESG experts or GHG experts for that matter, we can actually bring in the kind of the level of detail or the kind of I can say the expertise out there of our expertise, and which is very much needed from an ESG perspective to have that greenwashing eliminated altogether. That is more companies being more transparent and more simplistic with respect to what information they are providing. So yeah, that's it from my side. I hope I have been able to provide some light onto the ESG perspective and bring in the kind of opportunities that we have. And I think we should typically grab these opportunities when no one else is doing. We also had this kind of apprehension when we actually stepped into this with the big fours being the major players in this, and we thought this is a right moment for us to step into this. Obviously, with the kind of support that is needed from actually consulting companies which are into the reporting frameworks per se. If you can connect with some companies which will provide you with the kind of visibility across these companies, and you can make a good mark in this field. So yeah, thank you for the kind and
I request, please, there is a few 5 minutes time for interactive questions. I have a question.
Sure.
What are the risks involved in this, and how do you go about getting this? Because as you said, it's one applicable listed company.
Yeah.
So what is the risk involved in this, and what kind of
risk from what perspective you're looking?
Risk in the sense from the perspective of audit.
Okay, that's a good question actually, and as I said, SEBI for that matter has come up with this reasonable assurance. Risk is I would say that and from an expert level, from a GHG perspective, from a sustainability expert point of view, I can say that there is always that risk that we might not be in a position to comment upon something which is outside of your sphere. So that is one risk, and it is very much essential that we partner with certain experts who are in that field. Maybe and from a personal experience, I guess we need to have that support from GHG experts or people from the carbon sphere who are actually doing carbon footprinting or decarbonization strategies. You need to have those experts in place. Absolutely. Exactly. But that is to a limited extent out there, and we can have that addressed when we have those experts in our team. And if you see the assurance report also, it also mentions that this is the report which has been we have taken the help of cross departments or cross functions. Absolutely. So obviously that responsibility is on us, but we need to understand that they have understood what assurance is and basically checked those boxes when we actually give an opinion.
Yeah. So basically, rightly said, we have been a chartered accountant, we are very familiar with the numbers.
Correct.
So my question is on a part of when we talk about the ESG. So how to measure those risks and how to report? The measuring and reporting those risks, if you can throw some light on that part.
See, when you actually dive into this sphere, actually it is not very much difficult if you see, to understanding the risks from these three ESG perspectives. Social aspect, you can always say what kind of risks that it can have. I hope I understood the question correctly. From a governance aspect, also we know that how that needs to bring a drill down to the lower levels of within the organization. Having that mindset, bringing in those policies and procedures in place. Yes, but the risk from a environmental perspective is obviously there. And as I said, as we are not experts in the environmental field, uh, but again, as I said, experts from the similar field, we need to partner with such people, as I said, because partnering with consulting firms which are into the sphere, carbon and decarbonization strategy, obviously, over there we will need some kind of handholding. Once we are through with the initial phases of it, you can have some grip onto it. But again, when it comes to technical things in the carbon sphere, you generally need to take their viewpoints. Yeah.
Aniket, I have a question. Yes.
Yeah.
So, hi, I'm sorry, I came in a little late.
No problem.
You would have covered this, that, from a fraud risk assessment perspective, right? Because this is something new and it may be such the numbers because we do not know how to measure it, or, we are very naive now, just started, right? So, have there been any instances of fraudulent reporting and how the regulators or the institute has dealt with this? Any perspective on this?
See, looking at the current scenario, it is still a very beginner stage, even from a disclosure point of view. Because if you see, it's just started, BRSR I'll stick to the Indian perspective, so there is a lot of, what you can say is still, companies are still in a position, not in a position to arrive at the kind of info. They are still struggling, I would say. As I said, only the top 100 or 150 companies might be in a position with their, advanced technologies that they use, or the kind of database that they have, will be in a position to bring in the kind of information. But the other, 800 companies are still struggling to bring in that information, or at least, trying to come up with the processes. Because when we actually work with these companies, what we see is that they do not have the processes, and now they are sitting on the after the March end, trying to come up with the BRSR data. So that is they are going backwards now, and they have actually not implemented anything. So that is the scenario out there. I think that rigor or that fraud assessment, or greenwashing, as I said, and the controls, or the penalizing aspect of it will flow in some years. It is still in the initial stages for the companies to actually look at this, try to understand basically what sustainability is, how they can align their activities. But as you rightly mentioned, that it's still, we can hope that it will obviously come in. But there are a few instances in the global scenario wherein companies have been penalized for greenwashing.
So,
Greenwashing, yeah.
yeah, and one more, just to add to what you said, right? So even our current Prime Minister, he has come with this lifestyle for environment. There's some drive which is going on, right? So how to really, how to go green, basically.
Yeah.
Right. So it could be as small as a part-wheel idea, for the staff in the organization. Or
Absolutely.
it could be having a solar panel, on the terrace to just ensure that there's electric supply within the company, right? So, from government, is there any benefit which is given to the corporates? Any idea on this? Because this is a drive which the Prime Minister has been talking about for long, right? And we are moving towards that direction, and maybe the companies are adopting things. Like if we see the food delivery partners, we see them go in the EVs, we see them on the road going on the electric vehicles. Right, so these may be certain initiatives that the companies have come in, but from the government, is there any other benefit which comes to the corporates? Any idea of this?
No, apart from, I think there could be some subsidies in place, and apart from that, from when it comes from a demonstrating perspective, like what initiatives that the company has done from this, from the energy perspective, and when it comes to GHG emissions, for that matter, you can actually take credit of the of these emissions that you have controlled whenever you go for a renewable energy source. So apart from that, I do not see or have not come across any direct benefit that the government is providing at the moment. But as I said, it actually is. Wanting the corporate framework to come into this sphere.
Thanks. My name is Nandini.
Hi.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Aniket. So now to propose a vote of thanks, formal vote of thanks, I request our convener, deputy convener, CA Kailash Ji. And after that, we will be having a lucky draw. So I request everybody to please remain seated till the lucky draw is done.
Good morning, friend. Thank you, convener. I feel honored and privileged to get the opportunity to propose the vote of thanks on this special seminar for our speakers and others. On behalf of JP Nagar CEO Study Circle, my sincere thanks to our inter global consulting team, Mr. Darshan Doshi, Mr. Johnson Rogers, Mr. Mohammed Khan, who have advocated and discussed about UAE free trade zone, investment and opportunity. I also thank our speaker, Mr. Aniket Eram, on the topic of social audit, we have elaborated all the aspects with regard to the audit. I also thanks to our hotel staff and management. And last but not the least, I also thank to our coordinator, managing area, and all the members who have participated in the seminar to and request our all the members to give a lot of applause to our speakers. Thank you.
I request our speaker to take out the lucky